Good evening. It's 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Bailey, would you take the roll, please?
Commissioner Black,
Here.
Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Langness,
Present.
Commissioner Gerard,
Here.
Commissioner Lee,
Here.
Commissioner Batty, Commissioner Keen.
Here. We're asked if you're able, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Chair is looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Chair is looking for a motion to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes from our November 28, 2018 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Motion carries. We have one item on the agenda tonight. It's a variance application for 21183 Everton Avenue. It's tabled from our November 28th meeting. At the November 28th meeting, we did hold a public hearing, but as our tradition, we typically take public comment when we table a motion. So we'll do the same this evening after our normal routine, which is Donovan will present the application as he understands it. The commissioners will ask any questions to make sure they understand the application. We will ask the applicant if they would like to add anything. And after that, we will take any comments from the public. So Donovan?
Certainly. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, I'd like to present the amended variance application for 21183 Everton Avenue. Get video, Bailey, please. I did sit down with the applicant, and we did review what the Planning Commission had discussed, and what the applicant now has proposed the garage to be an attached garage, as shown on your screen. And this shows so the variance request is amended to be 20 feet from that front lot line. And the garage is the 24 by 26 size attached to the existing house. I requested that well, first of all, if you recall, the original application was for a detached structure, for detached garage. And this existing shed, the wooden shed that's by the road, is 160 square feet. So the original staff recommendation for approval included a condition that this shed be modified so that it is no more than 120 square feet. So there not be two sheds over 120 square feet. Now that this is an attached garage, this becomes one of the structures that the property could allow as over 120 square feet. And this also is a metal shed too. These, based on information that we have, these are legal non-conforming structures. There's the original survey showed basically two sheds, and at some point they were joined together, but which technically would be not in conflict with the zoning code regarding non-conforming structures. However, in this case, I believe if that minor merging of the two, if that wood was removed, they would have an appearance much less appealing than the shed is now. And so I don't believe it's really in anyone's interest that outer siding and be removed. But that does represent a small expansion of that nonconformity. And there's been some discussion around the, this illegal non-conforming structure. And there has been, other discussion as we had last time when we discussed this agenda item, the canvas and pole structure that is proposed to be removed when the garage is built. But basically, this represents, if there is an enforcement issue around, this being too close to the road, being even not having legal non-conforming status, that's not the subject of a planning commission variance application. The variance is seeking to basically expand the house and have it be located 20 feet, from the front property line, and owing to the location of the house and really the inability to put it anywhere else without completely scraping off the house to get it to legal, not the 30 feet conforming setback. I do believe there's a practical difficulty, and so staff recommendation is to allow for this 20-foot setback that does allow for those 2 off-street parking spaces. I'm happy to take any questions from the Planning Commission now.
Any questions, Donovan? Mike?
You said the shed's gonna be torn down after the garage is built? The third shed?
Well, that's the desire. I mean, that's part of the recommendation was that, of course, that they get a demo permit, the demo permit be obtained prior to getting the building permit issued.
But that was for when it was a detached garage, correct?
Well, no, this is for the canvas and pole structure that needs to be removed as a condition of getting, it needs to be, a demo permit needs to be obtained, which has an escrow amount equal to the cost of removal. It's a canvas and pole structure. I mean, it's something that would probably could be taken down in an afternoon or something, it's.
But you're not talking about the existing shed. That's not
No.
what you're referring to at all.
One in between.
It's the canvas one that's beside the house.
Correct. It's not shown here. You're right.
Why are they waiting till after the garage is built to take that shed down, if it only takes a couple of hours to take it down?
I'm told that there's the materials to build the garage are contained within that, temporary structure.
Okay, one more question, and that existing shed that's out by the street, is that within the border lines? I mean, the 10 feet from the sideline and?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean,
Not at all.
the survey shows it's about a little over 2 feet. The survey from 94, and that's the basis, that's the information I have that it's been there. It's been there prior to even the applicant purchasing the property. Though, if someone was to provide evidence that it was, if expanded or replaced, way beyond, the minimal amount, then we'd be in another situation and we could, it would have lost its grandfather status. But that would be subject to enforcement. That's not a planning commission, doesn't have the authority to remove sheds.
No, we don't have the authority to remove it, but we could make it in the contingency of the permit is to have that shed moved to within the legal guidelines of the city.
It's
Not
not,
exactly.
it's not a part of this variance application. I mean,
Both,
any conditions, I mean, we can, if you want to get deep into it, actually did get some, basically asked the city attorney, okay, so what, and she offered this advice, it's a lot of, but basically that, a variance deals with practical difficulties. And if it's, if the plan commission sees a practical difficulty not created, by the, property owner, and if it doesn't alter the essential character of the locality, and they can put conditions on their approval. A condition must be directly related to and must bear a rough proportionality to the impact created by the variance. This is in state statute, but it's the same language as echoed in the local zoning code. So then Bridget continues, it remains my opinion that the Planning Commission may not require the removal of a legally established non-conforming structure as a condition of granting a variance without running afoul of a potential inverse condemnation claim and the provisions of Minnesota statutes that provide significant protections for legally established non-conforming uses. Now, this is assuming it's a legally non-conforming use. And that's based on what I've, information I have. That's what I believe to be. And then she goes on and saying that, basically the city has to buy the shed. If they require it to be removed, they have to purchase, a shed. Otherwise it's an illegal taking.
Well, we're not asking them to take it down, we're just asking them to move it within the legal boundaries of the city ordinance.
And that's an enforcement issue, not the planning commission zoning. Gary?
Can you, if you go back to the layout on there, if the garage is situated where it is shown here, can you show where trees, there's got to be 4 trees taken down in order to do that?
Yeah, there's 3 medium-sized trees. One reason why they want to do this rather than the side-loaded garage is because there's a big silver maple right about here,
Right.
right midpoint.
So those trees that are marked with a ribbon around them now would all come down
Correct,
in order to have the access from that side?
correct.
So that big tree stays?
The big silver maple stays, it's a $10,000 tree, if you know anything about real estate, the
Stephen, if you want to come up to the dais.
The cost to take the tree down, is gonna about $5,000, okay? And then you're losing value of the property. That tree is, it's been there a long time. And, that'd be the only tree in the front yard. And we did a lot of discussion about this, and one of the reasons why I didn't want to attach it to begin with was money factor, But we did some discussions about it and stuff, and we're gonna attach the garage. I'm gonna spend the money for the footings and attach it into my roof line. I dropped the roof line down and got rid of the storage trusses, so it would match my roof line in my house, increase the property value of the house, increase everybody's property around, look nice in the neighborhood. And it's a 1,200-foot square house. There's no storage, no basement, so there's no storage, and that's why, the shed that's there, we need the shed. And I asked, the tent shed holds a lot of the materials that we already paid for to build that garage inside the tent shed. As soon as the garage is built, the tent shed and that tin shed behind it, that the lawn equipment would be gone. And all my lawn equipment would go in the shed that's there, along with stuff from my house. Because, it's a 2-bedroom, 1,200-square-foot house. There's not, you can imagine, it's not very big. And I'm losing, by attaching this garage like this and doing what I'm doing and making it look nice to the house instead of having a big, tall garage and a short house, I'm losing a lot of storage doing this. But I'm doing it to make everybody happy in the neighborhood and just, and it'll increase the property value too.
So you're suggesting that the metal shed will be taken down after the?
Yes, the
along
metal
with the
shed
canopy?
and the tent shed will be gone. As soon as my garage is built, all that'll be gone.
So the only building in addition to the garage will be the existing shed near the road?
That's correct. The wood shed that's been remodeled and re-roofed to make it look nice. It was looking bad, and that's a fact. And I have to replace the deck one of these days. The deck boards are getting bad, but that's down the road,
So just for the record, if you
Yep.
could state your name and address.
I'm Stephen Barthold. I'm the son of the applicant. I live at the house. My mom owns the house, and I live there.
Thank you.
Yep.
We may have more questions for you later.
That's all right. Thank
Any
you.
other questions, Donovan? Eric?
Hey, Donovan, I received a few questions on, would the applicant be required to do a survey, or how would we ensure that the structure isn't too close to neighboring property lines and
Yeah, certainly.
20
that's-
feet off the setback? And
Yeah,
Can you
that's a
walk through that
requirement
process?
of the building permit, process. Building permit application does require the survey, and I did inform the applicant that, because also, I've done some, the rough measurement for the impervious, but that's just simply an estimate. So we need to get the good data to, ensure that the house is built within the required, footprint.
And then my second question, and this is the reason, I did ask Donovan to have our attorney here. I see that she's not, but I disagree on this rough proportionality piece. the code very specifically says rough proportionality, not direct proportionality. And so when I look at it, rough proportionality would mean it's somewhat similar or it has some sort of characteristic. And, you know, a garage, a shed, this other structure that, the big one that's going to come down, they're all storage. They're roughly proportional to each other in the function they serve on the property. The structures, the front shed or the shed on the southern end of the property and the garage are both either an existing or a proposed exception to the setback. And so they're roughly proportional as they're both in a non-conforming status in that regard. And then thirdly, it's an expansion of non-conforming structures on the property as a whole. And so I guess I'd like some more legal clarity on you to define what exactly rough proportionality is if it's not those things or one of those things.
Well, basically, what's, you know, basic rough proportionality, in my view, would be, okay, they want to build a garage, but it's on a steep slope and there's lots of runoff, so therefore they need to put a retaining wall to redirect runoff. There is,
What does it mean from a legal perspective, though?
well, there's much case law regarding that one. You know, I think that's what's a reasonable, you know, what's a reasonable connection. But you have here a shed that's been on the property for a while. Yes, they both provide storage, but I don't see how there's a connection with the you know, basically expansion of the house, and then there's a shed else, you know, also on the property.
Well, we're expanding the amount of structure within the front setback. I mean, that to me is the most clear out of all of them, is that this request in essence is an expansion of structure in the setback. And so how can we not say that that's roughly proportional to something that's already structured in the setback?
Well, I mean, then it becomes, well, what is there an impact? Does that, like moving the shed or removing the shed, does that mitigate the impact? I mean, I think it's what, 75-foot wide lot? Is that what I remember? 75? You know, well, is it cluttering that front? I mean, is there just not enough room to, you know, park vehicles? Is there, you know, I mean, is there a defined impact of having both of them within the front setback? I mean, that's the big question is. I mean, does this somehow make that other structure, you know, does that increase its nonconformity in some fashion, or does it, you know, does both of them together cause a drainage issue, or do they cause a visibility issue? Which, I mean, there could be, you know, and there's a lilac tree here. I mean, there could be trees here that provide, you know, that screen, you know, that also. So it's hard to argue it's a visibility issue.
And I think those are all good points for consideration, but I think that ultimately the reason why that rough proportionality is written in there and not direct proportionality is because the state legislature, when they wrote it, wanted to give that decision to us. And we have setbacks for a reason, many of which you named, and there's probably things that you didn't name for a reason to have a setback. And so I think it's well within our power to choose to put a condition that shed has to be removed, eliminated, moved, brought up to compliance standards as part of approval if we so chose. And this is very much, and I don't know how much I can stress that I think if any one of our members asks for the attorney to be here, we should try to make all accommodations to make that happen so that we can have a legal opinion, so we're not putting the city at some sort of litigious option.
Commissioner Langness, she offered her opinion. It's right there. And your rough proportionality, it has to somehow mitigate the impact of that structure, being within the, within the 30-foot setback.
Where does it say that in the statute, though?
Well, see, basically, it's rough proportionality to the impact created by the variance. So you have a garage that's there. Now, moving the shed back, what impact is this causing where moving the shed back is going to mitigate that impact?
It'll reduce the amount that is within the required setback that's in city code.
So that's written in city text. I mean, but what's the real life impact? What's the practical impact?
It reduces the amount of structure within the setback
Well,
that's required for the
that-
whole host of reasons you stated. I think I've made my point, which I think is that ultimately it is our decision to condition that or not. So I'll leave it at that.
Mike?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Donovan, in the previous application, we had exterior elevations of the proposed structure. Do they still apply to this structure?
No. As the applicant's son mentioned, that he plans to actually make this roof line more match the cabin. I don't know, do you have an idea of?
So this does not reflect what they're going to do then?
Correct, yeah, I did learn that more recently after the packets went in.
It'd be nice to have the plan as we're asked to review it, rather than something that we're not reviewing, So there won't be a dormer, there won't be a,
No, it'd be just, it probably would be like a 612 pitch, with regular trusses, to match the house. And actually, that house has not got very, it's probably a 412. The pitch line on the house, it's not a very tall house at all. So, I mean, the garage is not, to come in, to tie into the roof line, it's not gonna be, it's gonna be like your normal garage. It's just that.
so why are we looking at this drawing then?
Oh, that's my mistake. I mean, basically, what the variance is related to is the setback.
Well,
I know it
yes.
helps you picture this, but, yeah.
Is there a single-car garage door on the front? Is there a double-car, is there a two doors?
Yep.
And
Yeah,
on-
I've already spent over $1,000 having plans made up, and, because Donovan and I talked originally about it, and this is what we came to.
Judy, you should point come up.
Yeah,
Please state your name and address for the record.
Judith Barthold, 11931 Goldenrod Circle, Coon Rapids, Minnesota. But we've been going over, Donovan and I have been going over this for a long time. This is the fourth plan, that we came up with. The original one, Donovan, he didn't like it, and so he talked to my son Steve about it, and they agreed on the one that you guys got the last time, And then you didn't like it because well, originally he wanted it 5 feet off of the one, the one side. And so then they agreed to do it this way, and Donovan said it'd be fine, we'd go for the 10-foot from the roadway, Well, you guys didn't like that. So then you wanted, you talked about it being sideways, right? But that big maple tree is at least 150 to 200 years old. And I talked to a real estate appraiser about it. And he told me, Brian Field told me that tree is worth between $5,000 and $7,500 on my property. And to take that down, because the power line's coming into the house, that's $4,500 at least. So we decided then, talking to Donovan and my son, that because you guys were talking about the attaching it to the house. And I have a brother that's a contractor, and I talked to him, before that. So did Steve. Steve used to work for him. And we decided to make everybody happy, attach it to the house, spend the extra money doing that. Anyways, so yeah, I've had plans drawn up twice. And so Donovan said, we'll just do this way, and then we're gonna have, when it's okay, I'll have the plans drawn up again. But it'll be a two-door garage. It'll be a regular looking garage.
Except for 2 doors instead of one big.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Very about the doors. garage doors already bought.
Yeah, and you talk about the tent shed and stuff. All right, there was the concern or complaint because I had, and I didn't know he did because I hadn't been up there, but he had bought materials and hardy board? Yeah, I mean, huge, right? Big trailer, you know, loaded with that stuff. Well, I had unloaded into the shed and some other stuff. It's full of stuff, you know, for this. And that's why, you know, that's why it's there and can't come down till afterward. And I had talked to Donovan about it, you know, I told him I was gonna put it in there, you know, then, because I had to get rid of the trailers off the property. I didn't know that was illegal, you know? I had no idea that was illegal, you know, to have them sitting there. So, yeah, that's why. That's why the tent shed's full of stuff like that, because it was sitting out and okay?
Thank you. Mike?
Say, ma'am,
Yeah.
if one of your plans were to have that on the east side of the property, 5 feet from the property line, that meant you were gonna demolish that shed, right? Why don't you just take that shed out?
Okay, that's another thing with the shed. You know, that's another subject completely, and this fellow here, I don't know what his name is, mentioned it last time. All right, I bought that property in 1998. In 2004, they put an ordinance or zoning for the canvas things, right? And then in 2010, they amended it. And so and it was Aaron Buffett, I think was his name or something. I've got the letter over here. Anyways, you know, he had sent me a letter, you know, that I have to remove that, right? Okay, and you can have them up from April or October or something to April or something like that. Well, anyways, when I talked to him, I said, hey, that thing was put up in 98, you know? It's grandfathered in. It was put in way before this ordinance. And he agreed with me, you know? And the letter that Donovan had showed you guys, he had it because I gave him the courtesy of showing him my proof, you know, that I had, that, you know, Aaron Buffett or whatever his name was, anyways, had, you know, contacted me once about it. And then, yeah, he agreed with me. It's grandfathered in, you know? And same with those two, the shed, you know, that you're talking about, you keep talking about, that's actually still two sheds. You cannot get from one to the other. When my son repaired it, because, you know, old and was starting to fall apart, because it was there when I bought the property, you know, and he just tried to make it aesthetically look nice for the neighborhood, basically. I mean, you can cut it right off, and you still got the separation of the two sheds. You can go from one shed into the. I mean, you can't go to, you know, it's not one big shed. It's actually two sheds still. You can't get from one to the other. It hasn't changed. It's just.
But if you're-
We tried to make it look nice for the neighborhood. Instead, we got complaints.
But if you were,
Demolishing that shed.
if you were willing to take it down to put a garage there,
Hold a minute.
why don't you just take it
Well,
down?
Listen,
When-
sir, because let me answer that, and I answered that when I stood up there, that's because the old, their garage has storage trusses with a 12-12 pitch. With putting this garage attaching to the house and matching my roof line, I'm losing all that storage. So I need my shed for storage, that's why we want to keep it now.
Besides the other,
Before that wasn't a problem, you understand what I'm saying? That's why I was gonna build that garage for storage, and if you look at the pictures, it's got storage trusses in it. That's.
We don't see what your new
No.
we don't see what your new garage is gonna look
that's
like.
what, that,
Well, that's what it is, it's gonna have a 6-12 pitch, and it's gonna be like a regular garage now with an upstairs to it like that.
And according to
But
your letters, it's
also-
for one car, correct? One car in the garage? That's what your letter states?
well, yeah, well.
Because he's handicapped and
Right,
he
right,
needs a
right.
bucket in
I'm, my neighbors can attest to the fact I'm up there shoveling, and I'm doing the yard work,
Not
you know?
arguing that.
But, you lost my train of thought when you were talking. It was something important, too.
Okay.
I'm 75 years old, so the brain goes south, you know? Geez.
I was just thinking you could
Oh,
use
I
that
know what
other
I was
side,
gonna
the
tell you.
other half of the
Okay,
garage
yeah.
for shed
See, all right,
storage.
if you read the letters that when I submitted it, you know, what I had said, okay, one thing eventually we'd like to do, and, you know, and my 401s come due every year, and I get money. We'd like to, on that side of the house, we'd like to, you know, come out on that side of the house eventually, because that's where the bedrooms are, to make it larger, you know? And that's one reason. And also, the main power pole is over there. That's another reason. I didn't want to get too close to that. That main power pole is on the other side of that shed. And, you
What
know,
does that have to do with?
I didn't
removing
want-
the shed?
because-
When you were gonna put a garage there on your original plans, correct?
Well,
No.
let's, hold on, but.
no, I wanted, eventually I want to
Excuse me,
come out
ma'am.
on that
Ma'am.
side of the house. I want to
Ma'am.
add on, that's why.
Ma'am, let's bring this back to where we were at in the meeting, which is asking Donovan if we have any questions regarding the application. So, thank you for your comments. We may have more questions for you. But does anyone else have comments for Donovan?
Mr. Chairman, I just again would like, and I don't want to beat a horse here, but further clarification on the attorney's opinion. I think the attorney has basically said that because this is an addition to the home, we're not dealing with accessory structures on the property, and therefore we can't, or she suggests that we really can't address the non-conforming issue of the existing accessory buildings on the property.
Correct.
Gary?
Donovan, can you tell me the 20-foot setback that's requested now, how does that conform to the neighbors?
It's, I think we kind of went through that the last meeting. It does, there's some structures that are closer to the road, kind of by where the turn, where the private road turns here, but mostly right around in that area. Most of the homes, many of the homes are set back. The one directly west of it was built in 2013, and that has, conforming. Maybe this one, a couple doors down, might be a little closer. Yeah.
Well, when I looked at it, it looked to me like there weren't any of them that were 30 feet from the road.
That's correct. There's quite a few of them, sir.
They're all closer than that to the road. So I mean, the 20 feet doesn't make this
Out of line.
much out of line with the neighbors. And I really like the revision that you guys have done. I think that this is I don't like to see trees being cut down, but that's a matter of fact.
Donovan, he was the architect here.
The only thing that bothers me about the proposal, as you presented it, Donovan, is the fact that the garage is not shown as it's going to be. I don't like making decisions on something that's different than what you're seeing. And although I truly would have to say that I support the proposal that you're proposing at this point.
Mike?
Mr. Chairman, I have one more clarification from Donovan. Donovan, how many sheds, detached sheds, can a person have, and how big can they be?
Two.
Two.
One has to be less than 120 square feet, and one can be up to 1,500 square feet. And they must meet the setbacks.
And the applicant,
And impervious surface too.
and the applicant has clearly made it clear that there's 3 on the property right now, or there's 4 on the property right now.
There's 3 on the property right now.
No, the applicant said the one structure is 2.
But it's, well,
So right now,
she did say that, yes.
Say that. Okay, that's all I need for now.
All right. Any other questions of Donovan? Eric?
Hey Donovan, I also had some comment from some neighbors, and this happened prior to me being on the commission here about 1 year before. They said in 2014, there was a nearby house that asked for a 2-foot setback from the front of the road, and that it was denied. Can you give insight on why a nearby home on that same road would have been denied 2 feet just a few years ago?
A variance of 2 feet from required?
No, a variance of only 2 feet, so.
Oh, from the lot line?
No.
Yeah.
So it would have been 28 feet instead of 30.
I don't know. Do you have an address? I mean, really, variances.
I may be able to find it in an email.
They're pretty, case-by-case basis.
I don't recall that one. Not 2 feet.
I'll find it and bring it up later in the meeting.
Any other questions for Donovan? Would the applicant like to add any additional comments?
No, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question for the applicant.
Okay.
The owner, could I speak to you, please? Sure.
Yes, please.
It's Judith, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Judith, in your original submittal, you submitted a letter
Yes.
explaining why you needed.
Yes.
It's important to have this garage for your son. And one reason you gave that, you indicate it's very important that you have 3 existing storage units somewhere, and that you need to get rid of those.
Yeah,
get rid of the-
I
the
said
building
that,
for
yeah,
that.
I said I was, you know,
Yeah.
I want to get rid of the canvas one.
He's talking about our storage sheds that I get.
Oh, yes, I do.
Some storage
yes,
sheds
yeah,
somewhere
yeah.
else.
I have 3 storage sheds that I'm paying
Is
on.
it the intention to bring the material out of those storage sheds to this shed?
No,
garage?
there's stuff, a lot of stuff in there that, you know, is for, you know, like cabinets for your walls, and there's tools in there, you know, things like that that belong in the garage, you know? And then he can, but then I can, then we can sort it out and get rid of them too, that's another reason. But I can't because, you know.
I see.
You wanna-
The primary reason for this attached
that's
garage is really for parking vehicles, not for storage materials?
No, it's basically for,
I can answer this, I'm sorry. It's for some of my tools, sir, and we're gonna go through these storage sheds, I'm gonna sell a lot of stuff, but it's for my tools, it's cabinets for the walls and stuff. I mean, it's, you know, it's basically for cars, but there is gonna be some of my tools to work on, you know, things and stuff in there too. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
All right, this is not a public hearing, but as our tradition, when we table or continue a application, we will invite anyone from the public who would like to comment on this application to step up, state your name and address for the record, and spend a couple of minutes with your thoughts on this application. So with that, does anyone wish to speak?
My name is Ed Eigner. I reside at 21221 Everton Avenue North, which I believe is 1, 2, 3 houses down from the applicant's property to the west. And as I stated in front of the last Planning Commission meeting regarding the first variance request, I do not have an issue with these people requesting a garage. And I was hoping that at the time they would consider an attached garage, which they now have done. The problem I have is with the existing shed. That was 2 sheds combined as 1 shed. You are receiving misinformation on the part of Donovan. Donovan did speak to Bridget, our attorney. I spent no less than an hour with Bridget today. What it hinges on is he is telling Bridget it is a legal shed, a legal structure. I have correspondence that I have, which Donovan has signed off on, and it's over the years, over this dispute, saying it's an illegal shed. And at the time of construction, when they were working on the shed to combine the 2, there was a cease and desist order on building the structure. So there's no doubt in my mind it's an illegal shed. The question is, I don't understand on the part of Donovan why we would entertain keeping that shed when they can come into compliance with a variance for an attached garage. If they remove that shed, everything would go away. So the bone of contention seems to be the shed. And I am totally against having that shed. My neighbor immediately to the east of me was in the same situation. I have an illegal shed, which actually it wasn't illegal for them because when they purchased the property, it was already there. But I guess you could say it was grandfathered. 2 weeks ago, they removed that shed because they own a property on the other side of the street and put it behind their second house. So now everything in that, until you hit their shed, is in alignment. They did not remove it because of this. They removed it for different reasons. But it has made the neighborhood more of the same similar type housing with the same setbacks. And I don't understand from the standpoint of property valuation why you would allow this. And I believe we have another neighbor here that's going to speak, who is the immediate neighbor, who could have had a prospect to sell his house until they looked at these sheds and said, "What's that all about?" He said, "That got nothing to do with it, that's my neighbor's." And they said, "Well, we're no longer interested in looking at your house as a prospect to purchase it." With this, and they used some not so nice terminology as to what they referred it to. So I don't know, I'm looking at it from property values, and my house, obviously, I want to sell my house next year. I want it to have the highest property value possible. And when you allow things like this, it's not in the best interest of the city nor the neighborhood. And that, I guess that's all I have to say. And the only other thing I would like to comment is on the roof line. I agree with one of the commissions that how you can make a decision on a plan that's not formalized as to what the roof line is going to be. I would suggest you should table until you have that nailed down. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Martin Worthman, M-A-R-T-I-N-W-U-R-T-H-M-A-N. I live at 21167 Everton Avenue North, which is immediately adjacent to this property, except for a 4-foot strip that belongs to a property across the road. Belongs to a property across the road, but it's unbuildable. It's only 40 feet wide. I purchased my house in 1995 from the guy who built it. And ever since then, the property really has been in what I would consider disrepair. But disrepair implies maintenance. It's been a mess. And I even have some pictures of it that go back. I have some even recent pictures of it. And Mr. Iger referred to a couple that contacted me about 10, 15 years ago. And they were very interested in my house. And I don't know if you know my house or whatever, but it's a big, expensive house. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, the whole 9 yards, all right? And they came in on the east side of my property, which is not where their property is. And we're talking, they're very interested, yada, yada, yada. So let's take a walk around outside. And we did. We came around the garages, and as soon as they saw their property, they said, "Is that your property?" I said, "No, it isn't. It's my neighbor's property." And I said, "Well, how about that space between?" He says, "Nope, that's also my neighbor's property." And they asked me how long that's been that way. And I said, basically for as long as I've lived here. They haven't cleaned it up. They haven't taken care of it very well. It's become a bit of a messy piece of property. It's currently not an asset to the neighborhood. I consider it currently to be a liability to the neighborhood. And one of the things that I consider that makes that a liability is the sheds that they're talking about. That shed in the in the lower right-hand corner, the existing shed, that was built maybe 3 years ago. And according to a survey done for Ron Gertismeyer as part of the package, I'm referring to this one, Donovan, all right? I believe it was done in '94, but I can't be exactly sure about that. It clearly shows on here that there was a smaller shed there. And it was there, and I saw it when I bought my property. Well, he built a larger shed on top of a smaller footprint. I'm certainly not an expert in this. I've always been told that to get something grandfathered in or to repair a structure of some kind, it has to be the same dimensions and the footing. Am I correct in that? That you can't build, my apologies, you can't build a huge house on a small footprint. And in a sense, they did something like that. Now, that entire eastern side of the house looks like a storage yard. It's got crap piled up between the structures. In fact, neither one of these outlines has the two existing structures in it, plus a pile of, I don't know what's under it, but there's a pile of, let's call it construction materials for want of a better word, that's at least as big as that metal shed in the back. And this pile exists between the Quonset hut, the gray Quonset hut, and the front existing shed. So when you look at it, it looks like one pile of junk from the road all the way down to the lake. I have some pictures of a camera I can show you if you'd like to see those. But it's really disturbed me for a long time, but I figured, oh, okay, nobody else is upset about this. I haven't heard anybody talking about with other neighbors, but I'm not the most social guy in the world, but I hadn't heard anything about it. And then he started to build that replacement shed about 3 or 4 years ago. And I was wondering what was going on. It's that point in time I started becoming very concerned because they didn't know how far it was going to go. I then found out that one of the structures that was on there is not only not in compliance, but there's an enforcement letter apparently sent to them to cure the problem, remove it, or whatever it was. And it was supposed to have been in this packet that I downloaded from your website, but it wasn't. He hasn't done anything about it. She hasn't done anything about it. It's still a mess. And quite frankly, I've got a very expensive house. And that home, that close to my house, takes a significant amount of value off the top end. I bought that house for the specific purpose of not buying a second house up north. It's a cabin. I'm 25 minutes from both downtowns, and 25 minutes, anybody in downtown Minneapolis, St. Paul, come out to my place and they're at a lake home. 25 minutes. It's a great property. Except for these problems. There's also vermin, incidentally, living in that shed. I have a picture of a groundhog the size of a beagle. Honestly, God, the thing's that big. Caught him coming out of the gray shed. Well, maybe last fall, last spring, something like that. So it's not just that it's going to be taken care of. Promises are easy. You're in politics, you know it. They're really, what I would suggest is he remove all of those sheds, he bring the property into compliance, and then apply for the variance. Because the history of the property has been, they've been told they're doing things wrong, but they ignore it. It's like you folks don't even exist. You send him letters of correction. He ignores it. He knows these things are out of compliance. He built them that way. I'm sorry. The way he treats his property, I do not consider him a good neighbor. Now, don't get me wrong. Stephen and Judy are very nice people. I like both of them. But I just don't think that this is in the best interest of the community, and I know it's not in my best interest. Do you have any questions of me?
Yes, the 40-foot strip that you described, is it on the east side of this property?
Yes.
So, and you live to the east of it?
Yes,
Okay.
it's my property, then the 40-foot naked strip, then his property starts.
And the 40-foot strip, on this survey here, the property is 75 feet wide. Is it another 40 feet beyond the 75, or is it included in the 75?
No, you're saying along the east side of the property is material stored.
Yes, on the east side
Yeah,
of his
no,
property is material.
this gentleman lives to the
Then
west.
there's a 40-foot strip, which is an access strip to the guy across the road.
Oh, 40, oh, okay, you do live, okay.
Yeah, and then there's my house.
Okay, so the 40-foot strip is between you and them, that
Yeah,
owns owned by the guy across.
It's like another, it's a,
Okay.
you know,
You
lot.
can't build them, so it's basically an access point.
Got it. Yep, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Sir?
Again, referring to the shed in question, I have letters dating back, signed by Donovan, stating what section of the code the shed was in violation. stating it's illegal, stating it is not in compliance, stating they have to do something about it. Nothing was done. We have other letters stating that they have to cease work, signed by Donovan. So I don't know what story Mr. Hart is telling you, but I can submit these. They're public record. I got them under the Public Information Act. I don't know if you have copies of all of these. I can certainly furnish them. But to me, it still hinges on the definition of whether that's legal or not. All his correspondence says it's illegal until tonight. And there's something drastically wrong here, drastically wrong. And for you to make a decision based on his city staff recommendation at this time would be foolish. And if you do, I will not let it rest. My recourse, my understanding would be that it would still come in front of the council if some neighbors still object, and obviously we object. And I caution you to take the time to find out, review all these letters. They're available to me. They certainly should be available to you. And there's a lot of untruth going on here.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak?
I want to answer this. He's talking about construction stuff alongside the shed. It's not, you know, the big canvas one that he's talking about? Right behind there, that's the dock stacked up there, and it hasn't been out for a lot of years. And that's basically what's sitting there, because Donovan asked me about it. I said, it's the dock. And then the guy that was across the street before, he's got a whole bunch of picnic tables, and he had shoved them over towards me, and I'm trying to mow and that. And you know that I keep that property mowed and stuff, because I'm over there all the time working on it, you know. But it does, you know, that's what we're trying to do, is trying to improve it, you know. We want to take down the tent shed, and I talked to Steve before, and I told him, we're going to buy a dock that rolls out, you know, and we're going to get rid of this dock because it's stacked up there. I can't even move it. I've tried to move it, you know, to try and straighten it out a little bit myself. I can't budge it because it's so heavy. But that's docks right there, wooden docks. But the guy that used to rent the place across the street, he left a whole bunch of picnic tables and some other junk up front. I don't know, you know, and the guy that just sold his property because there's a real they have a drinking party and a lot of noise all the time. And he left because he wasn't able to get sleep. That's why he sold his property. I was talking to his mother, you know. But he asked me if those were mine. I said, they're not mine. When he bought them, they were there too. So a lot of that junk was from the previous owners.
I'm going to be honest with you people, okay? I've been in some trouble in my life. I've been in prison, okay? And this is why the property got the way it was, because I wasn't there to take care of it and my mother was taking care of it, or somebody that was staying at the house to take care of it, let it go like that. Our goal is, and we've cleaned it up a lot in the last year, got rid of vehicles, got rid of a lot of stuff, okay? I'm in Teen Challenge right now, getting my life together. I'm a mentor down there. I'm working in a program. Believe me, my life has changed a lot, okay? And it has. I wish I would have did this 20 years ago. But that's me. I'm just telling you a little bit about myself. But what our goal is to get rid of all that stuff that's on that side of the house, except the shed. Everybody has a shed in their yard. Most people do, and a garage, and a house. That's all that the property will have when it's done. It'll have an attached garage with the house is sided. When I bought that house, and that thing, I mean, it's been sided and everything, you know. But over the years, because I haven't been there to take care of it, stuff has gotten bad. And that's my own fault. And I've put this on my mother. And I feel terrible for it, okay? I'm a 55-year-old man, and my mom is helping me because of what I did to my life. But my life has turned around, and I have God in it now, and I am working at Teen Challenge, and I went through this program, and it's doing wonders for me. I speak to people. I'm speaking this Saturday at a church. If you want to come out and listen to my testimony and listen to me speak in front of 3,000 people. That's just what I'm doing with my life now. okay? I'm telling this board that this is our goal, is to clean up that yard, that side of the yard. We've cleaned up everywhere else. The only thing there now is the tin shed that'll be gone, and the shed that's remodeled. If you go by there and look at that shed that's remodeled, you don't see a nicer one on that whole block. I don't care what anybody says, that's the nicest shed on that whole block. It is. And it looks nice, and it was done to improve the property, okay? There's even got a little porch on it, it's nice. I was putting a fence down the sideline, and this is what the complaint was about, because I didn't know you had to pull a permit to put a fence, okay? And they sent me one. It was a 6-foot fence to guide all that, and they told me that it couldn't be 6 foot, it has to be 4 feet, which is wrong, because it's 4 feet across the front and 6 feet down the side. That's on a later date. So we chopped the fence down, wasted all that money for the fence. Okay, what I'm getting at is I understand where they would complain, and I would too. If the doc, I call him the doc because that's what I've always known him by, he's got a beautiful house, and I've always got along good with him. And I can understand why he would complain about that there, because it does look like crap. But this will all be gone once this garage is built, and I can take down the tent shed because all the materials will be in there, and the shed that's there will look beautiful with that there. And the driveway and grass going down the side of the yard. I can't even grow grass there because of, the trees, there's pine trees there, they will all be cut down and it won't grow no grass. This is our goal and this is our plan. And that's it. I just wanted you to know, my mom's probably gonna be mad at me because I told you some of my life story, okay? But I wanted you to know why the property got like this to begin with. And he can verify, when I first bought that property, I did a lot of improvements to it, and I did. And that was my goal. My dad lived down the road and he passed away 2.5 years ago. But that was our goal when I bought it. And then I got myself in trouble. And they all know that. My neighbors know that, But that's why it got the way it got. And I'm being honest with you because God told me to. Thank you.
Steve, Can I ask Steve a question? As long as you're back up, So I want to compliment you on a couple things. One is, you took to heart what we said last time you were here about the garage and attaching the garage to the house and moving it back further away from the road. I think that was a great change for you to do that. And I like the fact that you've taken the storage trusses out of that and you've brought the roof down, so you're gonna tie it in with the house better. And we're not here to look at any of that. That's up to the city to decide. We're here just to talk about the variance.
Yep.
My question is, you're gonna take down the metal shed. We get that.
Yep.
We love that idea. That's obviously important. And you're gonna take down the pole shed, the canvas shed, once you have your garage built. Is there a reason you're spending a lot of money?
Yep.
And you're doing a beautiful job with this house, and it's gonna look really nice, I think
It's all cedar siding,
It's gonna be great.
Yep.
It's gonna be great, and I think it's gonna really enhance the neighborhood. Is there a reason why you wouldn't potentially think about, just casually thinking about maybe moving the shed back or just rebuilding the shed, since you're having a carpenter out there doing it all anyways? And then
I'm doing the work.
You have to be talking about this?
I'm gonna be doing, my uncle is gonna be helping me and a friend do most of the work to save money. I can't afford to pay
Sure,
a
I
carpenter.
understand.
Okay? If I was, because the shed's been all remodeled and nice. If you look at it, and if I move it, it's gonna, you know it yourself, because it's not a stationary structure, it's a shed. It's got 4x4 footing, or on the bottom, sitting on top of 4x4 footings. It could be moved, don't get me wrong. It can be
Sitting
moved.
on footings or
It's,
on
no,
cement
I'm
slabs?
sorry, on 4x4. 4x4 is just laid like this and it's sitting on it.
Just boards.
Yeah, there's no cement slab, no nothing, It's not a permanent structure by no means. It's just, to move it, it's gonna tweak the shed and mess it all up, it is. And I do need it for storage. I'm not, I told you
Well, my
that before.
question wasn't
There's no
necessarily-
basement in the house, and, I could, believe me, I would, if I could move it to save all this argument with ease and stuff, I would do it in a heartbeat, man, move it off the property line and I would, with no problem at all,
No, I appreciate that.
But I don't have the money to rebuild a shed, to tear that one down, buy another shed. We don't have the money. Like I told you, I'm embarrassed about it, but, if I wasn't for her, I wouldn't have a place to live. You understand what I'm saying? And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm starting to work down a teen challenge now and all, and the money is not, I haven't even started getting paid yet down there. I'm still kind of in the program, but I'm in that step, and it's just, but yeah, that's why. Otherwise, I would have no problem doing that. It's just money factor, and moving it's going to mess it all up, and you know what I'm saying? But I guarantee you, once that garage built, and that stuff is cleaned out, it's going to look nicer on there, man. It is. Some grass, throw some sod down. And when I build a garage, Now I'm gonna excavate it so the water runs away. I mean, I know how to do all that. When I wasn't locked up, that's what I did. You know, until I got hurt, you know, I got a phony hip and all that. I mean, I did. I almost died a couple years ago, so.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Sir, you wanted to speak?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, you started to get up before, that's why I was asking.
I'm sorry.
That's no problem.
I'll speak after.
Just so you people realize I'm not just making things up and trying to be a poor neighbor. But on March 9th, 2017, this letter is signed by Donovan Hart. City records show that a storage shed has been located on the southeast corner of the lot for the last 16 years. A re-examination of the city records reveals that the shed was enlarged within the last 3 years. The location of the shed within 30 feet of the front lot line and within 10 feet of the side lot line categorizes it as a non-conforming structure. Thus, it cannot be enlarged without the entire shed meeting city requirements. The shed must be relocated to legally conform to a legally conforming place on the property or removed. That's pretty straightforward. So what he's telling you tonight is 180 degrees different. And there's probably 6 letters in here to the same aspect. And it says, final notice, March 9th, 2017. We've gone another year. We've gone 13 years with nothing happening. So I don't know what you need, but I've got documentation showing the records of what has really taken place. And as far as I'm concerned, you're being led astray. And unfortunately, you're being led astray by our own city staff.
Any other comments?
I think so. I can appreciate the difficulties that you've gone through. I work with folks who have addictions. It's one of the toughest roads you'll ever damn crawl up, if you're lucky. But unfortunately, some of the side effects of that has been inappropriate behavior and has been a failure to comply with the regulations, the rules that you folks have set down. And I think I still contend that that southeast corner shed, that existing shed, needs to be brought into compliance and setback. All of the Quonset hut and I believe you called them dock sections. That looked like to me. Dock sections. Yeah.
Everybody around there's got their docks up right now.
So I would like to see it all meet compliance and removed before he starts the garage. But on the other hand, if those sheds really do contain the construction materials to build the garage, I feel a little hesitant about saying tear it down, then you gotta do something with the construction materials. Judy says she's got some storage someplace else. It's costing her $400 and some a month. I don't want to have you have to go buy more storage for the materials that are currently covered by those structures. At the same time, I don't want us to back off and say, well, you said you're going to do it, you're going to do it, and then in whatever time it takes, days, weeks, months, years, decades, in case the one, you know, I don't want to go through that again.
Understandable.
And I'm not in the kind of situation Mr. Iger's in. He wants to move in a year. I don't. A couple of years down the road, maybe. So I feel sorry for him because it's a difficult situation that was pretty much determined in the past. If all he was putting in was a garage and there's no sheds there and no piles of crap, I wouldn't care. I especially liked it when you changed the roof line to match your house because I was really worried that what was going to happen to the top part of that garage, he was going to rent it out. And Judith mentioned that twice in her personal letter, that they were thinking of expanding and doing more building, so on and so forth. She even spoke of having extra cars there. So I'm not convinced that what we're hearing is what's going to happen, because I've seen what's happened in the past, and I continue to be unhappy with it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We've heard from the public, so we thank you for your comments tonight. We'll bring it back to the commissioners for a recommendation or a decision.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, I thought the idea of bringing your legal counsel to take a look at what was written, the, not uncomfortable,
Non-conforming?
no, not non-conforming, Mr. Lang's,
Rough proportionality?
thank you, rough proportionality. I don't know what rough proportionality is. I would love to see a mathematical definition of it. But I think we need to find out about that, because if that, for any reason, can set you folks up for getting a lawsuit thrown at you, if it were me, you betcha I'd contact my lawyers. But that's, I'm just talking. So, thank you again.
Commissioners, comments, thoughts?
I have a question for Donovan. It seems like this shed is the issue. You know, we're not even talking about the setback from the road. It's all about this shed. And I guess, number one, do you have any pictures of the existing appearance
Of the property of the shed or what?
of the property?
Sure.
Including the shed. And while you're looking for that, the other question I have is that, is it possible that it would make sense to save the metal shed and get rid of the other one?
Well, I mean, that could be the applicant's, choice. I mean, there's the metal shed's down here. This is looking west. So this is the shed. This is from November 14th of this year. So this is the shed, and then this is the tent pole or canvas and pole structure, and the metal shed is kind of back
Donovan, can you hit the zoom in button?
here. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So this is looking west. And the house is behind here.
Do you have
Then-
one from the other side by chance?
Yeah. Then this is, just straight.
And that shed by the street, that's two sheds with just one roof line?
It was two made into one. There's a door on one end and a door on the other end. It was two sheds made into one. If there's no, you can't get in between them, or not, there's a wall in between them.
Yeah, like this between.
Two sheds? That's what it was to begin with, that's what was there when I bought the house. Two sheds, it's on the survey, it shows on the survey.
Other questions regarding the picture? Who had to ask for the pictures? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Other comments?
What about swapping those sheds? What's the potential of that, Donovan?
Before you answer that, Donovan, the question before the planning commission tonight is a 20-foot setback to build an attached garage, reasonable use of the land. The sheds may be non-conforming, they may not, there might be 3, there might be 2. That's enforcement. That is not the planning commission's job to dictate what a yard looks like. If the yard needs to be cleaned up, if these sheds are non-conforming, that is all enforcement. That's not what we're being asked to do. What we're being asked to do by a couple of people who spoke today is dangle the variance as the 2x4 to get it cleaned up. But that is not why we are here tonight. We are here to determine whether a 20-foot setback is reasonable use of this property. That's my 2 cents.
Eric?
With all due respect, Mr. Chair, I think I agree with you that it's a 20-foot setback, but I also would say, and I agree with you with much of the clutter on the property, that it's not what we're here tonight to talk about. Where I disagree is that front shed, because it is within the setback. And that is, at least in my viewpoint, that meets rough proportionality of what the request is. And so for me, I thought we were very clear in the previous meeting where we discussed this, that that shed was something none of us wanted. There was, I think, some variation on should it be side-loaded, should it be front-loaded. I personally said I didn't care. Either way, it would minimize the setback of that additional structure. And with the shed gone, I was very comfortable. And I am very comfortable in that sense. I guess I'm uncomfortable in passing this without a condition that says that that front shed has to be removed. I don't think we can dictate anything else on the property for the other two.
You can't have a shed on your property?
Sir,
I'm sorry.
we,
Okay, I'm sorry.
please.
I'm sorry.
But I'm also not comfortable making a motion that says that we can put that in as a condition without an attorney here giving us advice on that. And so I guess for me, I would rather we get all of that additional information, ask our legal representative to be here. I think we still have enough time for the 90-day or 180-day rule, the effective time that we have to, where an appeal could still go through council with ample time. And so I think the best diligence of this body tonight would be to table this, get all that additional information very specifically from our attorney, because the last thing I think I'd want to do is put the city, because it's not us, it's all of us that become liable and have to pay for a lawsuit or deal with any of those headaches. And I'd rather wait if we can do that.
Mike?
Mr. Chairman, I commend the applicants for putting the structure attached to the garage attached to the structure, setting the unit or the new structure 20 feet back as opposed to, what was it, 8 feet before? I like what you're doing. I've got mixed feelings. I hate to see more delay, and our legal counsel has spoken, Eric. I mean, the legal counsel has said that the two are not connected in terms of our action to the existing condition. So I don't totally disagree with you, but I kind of lean towards following what our attorney's telling us. I do have a question on what you're gonna do with the front door, but that.
What I plan on doing is having like a little mudroom I'm gonna lose part of my garage doing this, but you're gonna walk through the garage and then into the house, like a little mudroom type, you know what I'm saying? So I will lose part of my garage doing that. So there's another compromise that I'm making to please the city and to please my neighbors and please everybody.
Okay, I'm a little disappointed with staff in that we're reviewing an application that isn't complete. Would have been nice to have full elevations of what the applicant is doing, but I understand what they're doing, and I'm leaning towards letting it go through with approval with the variance. That's where I'm leaning towards.
Mr. Chairman,
There's a mic down there. Mike?
Well, I had kind of made some notes here too. I'm glad he came back with moving it over, bringing the roof line down. I don't think anybody here disagrees with that at all. But I think that we should table this for further legal action, have the attorney present, and updated plans and all that, because we don't have the new plans, we don't, there's questions unanswered. And I think if we could get someone here in the next meeting, that's what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
That'll be after the first of the year.
Okay. That's where I'm leaning towards right now. Just, they're not gonna be pouring concrete in the next week or two anyway, but I'm guessing, this time of year. when it-
Gary?
Donovan, the recommendations that are listed in our packet are no longer valid, is that true?
Yeah, from the original,
Is there a revision of your recommendation that is published?
I didn't write that up not knowing exactly what the planning commission's discussion would, entail. But we can review those.
Because, the recommendations that you have consist of a modification of the shed and some things that aren't a factor now. So those recommendations don't fit.
Yeah, well,
today's-
going back to the original staff memo, number 2 would be deleted, related to the shed having to be reduced in size below 120 square feet. And then also removing number 4. Otherwise, it's, I say that that is the staff recommendations. So it's 1, no construction or demolition shall occur prior to the issuance of a required city permitting. Number 3, a demolition permit to remove the metal shed and canvas and pole structure must be obtained prior to building permit issuance. The existing driveway must be removed after construction of the garage and the new driveway to the garage installed. There's only one driveway access allowed for this property, and no drainage or erosion issues shall result from the construction of the home.
Yeah. See, 3 doesn't fit the bill is what we're talking about in terms of, does getting a permit and actually doing the demolition mean the same thing?
Well, there's a demolition permit, then there's also a building permit.
But he still can, if he gets the demolition permit, he can get a building permit, build a garage, and then demolish?
Correct.
So he doesn't have to, so 3 could still be functional based on the current plan?
Correct.
So 4, what does that mean? It says must meet the dimensional requirements of a single-family zoning district. What does that mean?
That one gets removed. That was when it was going to be a detached
4 was going to
garage.
be, 4 was going to be scratched?
Yes.
So 2 is scratched, 4 is scratched,
Yes.
and 5 is okay,
Yes.
and 6 is okay.
Right.
Okay, for the sake of further discussion and some kind of a decision, I'd make,
Thank you. I have a couple questions before you do that. So, again, I just want to tell you, Steve and Judith, I really like what you've done with your plan. I think you took a lot of our recommendations to heart. The attached structure, I'm okay with a 20-foot setback. I have no issue with that. Our whole focus is on the other items on the property, and I guess my question is to you, Donovan. If we approve this variance to attach the garage, and let's just say that the detached structure is something that maybe comes up as a non-conforming and we have to deal with in the future, that's an enforcement issue, right? That's really
Correct.
not anything we should be talking about.
Correct. It would be an enforcement issue that I would undertake.
Yeah, and so I'm comfortable with what the attorney has said from her opinion, but I don't know if we have the authority. I don't know if we have the authority to put a condition on something that's an enforcement issue. I mean, I think we have an option when we're looking at variances, because variants do require that we bring certain things into compliance and that sort of stuff, but I'm not sure on that. I mean, I guess I'm comfortable approving it with the variance and leaving the enforcement action of the shed up to the city. That would be what I would say.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike?
Donovan, what is the procedure for enforcement, since this has been brought to your attention, and it seems like, from what we've heard, kind of years going, or building it's been building and building, and now it's come to a, kind of a head.
Well, right now, I mean, actually, there is an enforcement, there's a series of criminal hearings related to the pole and canvas structure. If I receive more evidence, and, some part of it was, during the original, PD, police department packet that I do, basically I turn it over to the police and say, here's what I see, potential citations, an officer visits the property and writes the misdemeanor tickets based on, what they see. And Mr. Eigner, of course, is correct that, within the 2016, 2017 period, I did consider that as a non-conforming structure. That was prior to receiving the 1994 survey that the applicant provided that shows this, these have a much longer life than where I can imagine. I saw pictures from 2014, 2017, some difference. But I basically would then just make a request to the PD to ticket it, and it would enter the criminal, court system until we get some resolution. And usually that means a series of hearings, and then that goes before the judge, and the judge does not want to deal with this, and they say, city and resident, you figure it out. And so eventually, we do get some resolution. But, part of this, it was in June of 17 when this property received the citation for that 10 structure. And so it's been a series of hearings since then. And this is an attempt to a resolution to bring, this to basically put I encourage Ms. Barthol to apply for variance in order to have a place to put all this stuff. And that's really what this is about, this whole context of this. And, but if it's, if, for instance, if the Plan Commission were to deny this, we would continue that criminal justice prosecution, that criminal complaint, and until we get things removed. And so this is an attempt to remove it a more, I would say, more productive way.
But that's the other buildings on the, now we found out the one in the front is now 2 buildings with a.
Right, no, I mean, yes.
Single roof.
I don't think it's, no one's really contesting whether it's, that there was some small expansion.
But is
there.
that something for the, to look into?
I could look into it. The piece is, back when I, did the original request to ticket, there were so many other issues with the property that I pretty much thought, okay, if we get all these other things cleaned up, that would be a success, I believe. I mean, I can show you the photos. There was, and Judy's mentioned some of it as well. I mean, there was trailers there, there was material, there was a van there, it was unlicensed, there was, other things. There was even at one point a satellite dish that was right at the edge of the road. And so what you see before you is much cleaned up, property, and, real attempts to comply with the city requirements for, keeping a property free of excessive material on, outside a garage or a house.
So in your mind, that building, are they grandfathered in with that? Just,
Am I fine with it?
in your mind, from your research and stuff, is that those 2 sheds that are out by the street, are they legal? Are they?
Yeah, I mean, basically it was
Are they grandfathered in, or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, there was a survey from 1994. I mean, it is, I think it's clear that they, and they admit that they brought them together, and that is a small expansion of that nonconformity. However, if they were to separate them, I don't think it would, it would make it much more of a, much more of an eyesore. And so what we have here is actually improved. So, I mean, I don't want to take that structure back. I really don't think it would achieve much to have that. I mean, but that, but I also want to, I do want to, actually, ask Judy if I can go in and confirm what she's been saying about the separations, and also examine, what is the new wood. I mean, if it's been expanded more than 50%, that's all, that's also, it loses non-conforming status. you know, if it's been altered more than
But you
that.
said it's legally non-conforming.
Yeah, but if it's, well, yeah, I mean, but if it's, you know, that's based on what I have information now, but, you know, further investigation might reveal that it was expanded far beyond what, but, you know, measuring today and measuring from that 94 survey, they're both pretty much 8 by 20 structures. You know, just two into one.
Gary?
I guess I would like to make a motion, but I'm having some troubles with the details. First off, on your recommendation then, we're changing the 10 to 20
Correct.
distance from the street, for one thing. And then we're okay with 1, we're okay with 3, we're okay with 5, we're okay with 6. Is there a way then to add something that states something about the dimensions of the garage? Because what we see is not what we're gonna get. So is there any statement that can be made about the non-bonus room upstairs, or the 4 by 12 pitch, or the whatever?
Well, it's going to be part of the house. I mean, it's basically, you know, it could go up to 3 stories or 35 feet. You know, the variance is for the setback from
Correct.
the street.
That's what
And,
I'm trying
you know,
to get.
in housing, I always encourage applicants to submit the house elevations so the planning commission can see what they're approving.
So that
But-
the garage, we can leave the garage dimensions to the staff.
Yes.
So I would make a motion that we approve the variance based on the 20 feet, the 1, 3, 5, and 6 conditions of the recommendation of the staff.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Eric?
Two things. Gary, I believe you just said removing number 6 as well. Was that correct in your motion?
Correct.
So number 6 was no erosion or drainage issues shall result. I don't necessarily believe that was your intent.
You're only removing 2 and 4.
2 and 4.
Right. No, I'm including 6, that there'd be no changes in erosion or drainage issues. The number 6 strictly deals with drainage, right?
Right.
I just wanted to make sure I heard the motion right.
Allowing 1, 3, 5, and 6.
Thank you. I want to hear from all the commissioners, so I won't make a motion to table immediately. But I believe I'm going to do that soon here. For the reasons that I stated earlier, and we already know that this is going to get delayed to January. Whether it's delayed to January by this commission, and we have all the information that was asked before us earlier, from us earlier, and anything else we come up with tonight, we would then be able to have that so we can find a way to say yes here and have us all agree. If we pass this, one of the neighbors has already said that they're going to appeal it, which means that it's going to go to the brand-new council, because there is no other council meeting, to my knowledge, scheduled for December. So it's going to go to a brand-new council on their first meeting in January. Either way, it's getting delayed to January. Rather than have it go to a brand-new council, I would rather have this come back to us so we can make a conscious decision with all of the information and the context that's been brought to us, and fully know that before. I think we have an opportunity to find really good ways to say yes here and be really solid in our answer. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Other comments?
A question for Eric, what information are you looking for?
So the legal is the big one for me. I saw Donovan's interpretation of our attorney's words in an email yesterday, I believe it was. I saw Bridget's words, I believe, scroll over the screen today, which was the first I saw that. So I hadn't been able to dive into that in depth. I did ask Donovan a follow-up question on email where I requested he ask Bridget for further definition of rough proportionality in essence. And his response was he could ask her, I could pull it up, but if I say it.
This was her response, yes.
Donovan's response to me was that her response would be similar and he didn't think it was necessary she come tonight. For me, I really wanted to ask our attorney the questions that I outlined, and I don't want to repeat them all, but the questions that I outlined on how is this not rough proportionality? Where's the definition in state statute? And I don't have that answer tonight. And so for me to get to we can make this a better project, I want to understand the legal piece. And if we can't, I'll accept it, but I want to know that we can't do anything directly before I say I'm going to allow that to happen when I think in the hearts of all of us, we all probably want that shed to be moved, altered, brought within compliance, not within that piece. And so that's the big one for me. One of the neighbors nearby had brought up a series of other pieces of data practice requests that he obtained. I have not looked at those. We haven't been presented with that, and I don't know that there's anything of value in there or not in relations to this, but I think we could look at that. And I want to say there was another member, I forget which one of us it was, that had some other questions with regard to they would like to see the visual of the construction. And for me personally, it's not a big one on here because it wouldn't alter my decision, but I think all of those things coming back to us gets us much closer to a very uniform yes, which means a better decision. So that's what I'm looking for.
Other comments? Mike?
Well, I agree with Eric on parts of that, because I also mentioned, discussion with our legal representative and updated plans so we can see exactly what's going on. And one of the reasons is there's history here of getting letters, being, and not following up with the stuff. So, I mean, I know we're here for a 20-foot variance, but this piece of property sounds like it's got history of not conforming with what the requests are. So if they say they're gonna tear a shed down after the garage is built, I know that's enforcement, but who's to say that they're just not gonna do that stuff and move it? And I know that's not what we're here for, it's the variance, but I think we should have all the stuff to look at, the plans, the legal advice, before we make a decision. I think everybody here wants to see this plan go through to a point.
Any other comments?
I'll move to table the variance application to the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I think you have to vote on the first motion.
No.
No?
The table supersedes if there's a second on it.
Okay.
I've been corrected before, Bailey.
I'm just going for my records, I'm sorry.
I do learn.
I was gonna ask.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
What do we have there? 2 to 4. Motion fails. We have a second motion of approving a variance with a 20-foot setback with conditions 1, 3, 5, and 6. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Opposed?
Abstentions? Motion carries. So the way this works is that we have people who are not happy with this decision. So the Planning Commission on variances is the final decision unless there's appeal. Anyone is welcome to appeal this decision. They have 7 calendar days to get a letter to the city stating that you want to appeal this. And then what will happen is the city council will take up this issue and they will make the final decision. So that's how it's going to work. Any questions from anybody on that?
The
Yes.
city council you refer to is the current city council or the
The next
new one?
meeting.
By the time they have all of the legal notice and everything else, it'll be the new one. Because I don't believe there's any city council meetings
That's correct.
with the current council scheduled.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is my neighbor in the council? No. That's what I was gonna ask him, he'd have to recuse himself because he's got, interest in it, he couldn't be on it.
He used to be.
Yeah.
I know. You were used to be though, right?
That's
So-
what I thought he was.
Thank you all for participating this evening. We have moved to our other section. Donovan, do you have anything?
Just first thing that relates to, yeah, I do have something, is actually, of course, my, yearly concern about making quorum. And if you gentlemen know at this time, will you not be, here in Forest Lake on January 9th? So, come on,
No.
Yeah, I'll be here January 9th.
the
My
9th,
last
Wednesday.
night. Yeah.
Okay,
I'll be here.
so we have
I'll be here.
4 and Mr. Batty to sit in, okay? Thank you.
If those who may be taking a vacation, if you could get it to Bailey, so they know if there's gonna be issues, that we gotta make sure we have a full commission here, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Donovan, I have a question regarding, a while back, we had talked about doing some joint meetings with like the EDA and some of those people. Have you come any closer to putting any of those together? I was asked by an EDA member tonight whether we're going to have any joint meetings.
That really fell off my radar. I mean, it was, I thought it was, yeah, I mean, there'll be some kind of, and Bailey's preparing actually big kind of orientation booklets for new council members. So that could be something we could kind of put together as some sort of informational as well as just some good feedback. So I'll follow up with that.
Great.
Anything else?
Can I have another?
Yeah.
The one thing
One more.
that bothers me about some of the decisions that we make is that the enforcement of the decisions have been very difficult. We even have, and I'll pick on my pet project, elected officials that have conditions on their building permits or whatever the case was, or PUDs or whatever, that don't do what they're supposed to do. So how, and I'm not setting a neighbor up to not do things and I'm suspicious of that, although the record probably says it does. But, I mean, is there escrow systems that can be used until the compliance is there? Or how does that work?
You mean like with the demo, of the?
Yeah, or any
Yeah, I mean,
part- any
there's
part of
demo, for a demo permit to be issued, you need to put up, basically cash, write a check that is equal to the cost of the demo plus restoration of the site.
So that has to be done prior to the building permit in this case?
Yeah, right. So they could apply from the same time, but the demo, as far as being issued, the demo permit would be issued first, and then the building permit issued. I mean, it could be the same day, but there, it's fairly common that we do the demo, we do these demo permits.
I'm still not convinced that the city has an enforcement mechanism to
Well, yeah,
see to it that
basically
people
they
do
hire a
it.
contractor to go knock it down. Using the demo. And because there's an open permit on the property, the city has the right to enter the property.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We'll see most of you in January. So with that, the chair is looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.